Hello, my name is Dr. Tom Bennett. I'm with the Battleship New Jersey and the Kane University Oral History Program. Today is August 25th, the year 2011, and we're aboard the Battleship New Jersey, berthed in Camden, New Jersey. And today I'm talking with Mr. Andrew J. Lombardy of Madison, Ohio, who served aboard the ship from 1953, until 1955. His Navy enlistment period lasted from 1951 until 1955, and he served as a second-class shipfitter. Andrew, thank you so much for talking with us today.
I don't know what you really want me
Sure.
to say, but
Well, we'll get started up.
I got transferred from the
Before we get there, let me ask a question.
Okay.
The question is, how did you get involved with the Navy?
Well, when the Korean War broke out, I joined the Navy because I had an older brother that was in the Army during the Second World War. And he was in Leyte and the Philippines and quite a few battles. So he somewhat told my older brother, which is 3 years older than myself, why don't you guys join the Navy and stay out of the Army? Because he had it pretty bad. And I don't know if you want me to say this, but my dad was in the First World War. And he was in the 308th Engineers. And my brother was in the 302nd Infantry. And so that's how I joined the Navy, and my brother that's 3 years older than I, he joined the Navy.
So your dad and your older brother kept you out of the Army then, said go
More or
into the
less,
Navy.
right.
Okay.
Because he went through hell, and more or less, and he said, stay out of the Army. So we both joined the Navy, and that's how I got involved in the Navy in 1951.
How did you get to the Battleship New Jersey then?
Well, I was on the USS Cadmus, which was a repair ship, and when the Jersey came back from Korea, they probably looking for a pipe fitter or ship fitter second class, so I got transferred to the Jersey, and I really enjoyed it, being on the Jersey.
Talk to us a little bit. What did you do aboard the ship?
Well, mostly we did is repair all the water lines, steam lines, anything that had to be repaired as far as the ruptures, which in the middle of the night, sometimes you got called out because a water line ruptured, and we had to fix it, and or a steam line ruptured.
So steam lines and water lines would rupture, yet the ship was only about less than 10 years old.
Yeah, well,
Why was that happening? Was it
salt water going through some of these pipes, corroded them quite a bit. So we had to repair a lot of them. And, that's what I primarily did aboard ship.
So the pipes could burst anywhere in the ship?
Oh, yeah, vibration and anything shaking around, because that's why most of these pipes are not on a straight line for the expansion and contraction that I always learned aboard ship. And that was our primary objective, keeping them repaired, and anything that had to be done, like even on all the men's rooms and the ship's captain's bathrooms, we had to fix anything up there, leaks, any of their commodes.
Was there any area of the ship where pipes broke more than others?
No, not really. I never found that out to be.
So this compartment we're in right now used to be the weapons officer's compartment.
Yeah.
And looking overhead, we have chill water lines.
Yeah,
we have
steam lines.
looks like a 4 or 5 inch line and maybe a 10 or 12 inch line above us. So those could even burst today if they're under pressure.
Probably could if they had enough, age going through them, like anything. And I also, what was that? I'm trying to remember. We had in the cook's gallery, they had a great habit of throwing ground beef down the drains, and this ship had the drains underwater because of the phosphorus. It couldn't be seen at night, and they used to plug up these. They call them water jets, where seawater took the stuff underneath. And back there in the 50s, and I know, they threw trash overboard when we were out to sea. So we used to have to unplug those suckers, sometime. And that was a job, because we'd be sometimes waist deep in water down in the cofferdam.
In the bilge.
In the bilge.
Bilge and something like that.
And we'd have to take those things apart and unplug them. So
Now,
it got pretty messy
I
sometimes.
can imagine. Were the bilges, I talked to somebody else about the bilges.
Yeah.
Somebody once told me that the bilges were actually clean, that when they drained them, they were actually, and they painted them and so on like that in case. What were the bilges like that you
Well, they were
recall?
cleaned in, but what happened was with them things going on underboard, when we took apart, water would come in, from the drains above. There was no way of shutting it. So we'd get in there, and then they'd have to pump it all out.
They have to pump out the bilges, yeah.
Right.
So the bilge itself was actually clean,
Oh, yeah. I used to crawl around down in 'em.
really, yeah.
I crawled in every nook and corner in this ship down below.
Were the bilges were painted like, were they maintained on a regular basis?
Yeah, they were pretty well maintained.
I see.
Because another time, there was a chief and I, we had a oil line in the bilges, sprung a leak. So, and the chief and I actually did it. We wrapped like canvas with, I can't remember what we put on, lacquer, and we actually had to patch this oil line. It wasn't a pressure line, it was like a suction line, and we had to pressure wrap that. And we were down in the bilges doing it. And he was actually helping me.
That
I
was,
helping
it
him.
must have been a dirty job.
Oh yeah, we were filthy.
Wow.
I was filthy dirty after that.
Now, is that considered like a temporary patch till you
Oh
can
yeah,
shut the line down and replace a piece?
yeah, it was just a temporary patch. And we did that. But that's primarily my duties aboard ship was taking care of any of the steam lines and water lines and whatever.
Did any of the water steam lines break in really sensitive areas, say the officer's mess, the ammunition compartment, or were charts, anything like that?
Yeah,
that you
one
recall?
time I was on I call it damage control central, but it was probably fire control central room we had aboard ship here, and there was two of us on duty, and it was I think I was on the midnight watch, from midnight to 4, which was 4-hour shift, and the alarms went off on the panel, and here it was in one of the 16-inch powder magazines. And so we set the alarm off, and we were in port actually in Norfolk, and they sent off the damage control alarm. Everybody had to get up. Well, then when they investigated, we thought we had a fire down in the powder magazine, but we actually had a steam line rupture, and the sensor set the alarm off. And man, you talk about guys sweating it, because they thought the powder magazine was on
You're
fire.
gonna blow up, not a good thing.
Yeah.
Did the steam cause any damage? Because that's a massive steam line.
I don't know. I was had nothing to do with it. I was still on duty in that fire watch, and I have no idea who even repaired it. Tell you the truth.
Now, before you even got on the ship, did you volunteer to go to ship fitter school, or did they just assign you?
Yeah, when I was aboard the Cadmus, I signed up. I wanted to go to Pipefitter school. So first, when I went aboard the Cadmus, I was in the engine room. I'll go back to that. And I hated that. Down in the engine room with the boilers. So I hounded the captain, not the captain of our division. I said, I'd like to learn a trade of some sort. I'm only 20 years old and out of boot camp. And so I told him, how about, can I get into the pipe fitters, repair? So I did go up there. And the first project I had when I got up in that division was going to unplug toilets in the captain's or the officer's quarter, and it got pretty messy. But then I asked about going to pipefitter school, so I did go to a pipefitter school in Norfolk, Virginia. And when I got back there, which I did learn a trade because my dad was a pipefitter, where he worked in a factory in where I live, Painesville, Ohio.
By the way, when you got out of the Navy, did you pursue that career in
Pardon?
pipe? Did you pursue that career after the Navy? Or?
Well, I almost did ship over. In 1955, I came back from leave, and I took the test for first class. And I would have got they said, well, we'll award you first class if you ship over. Because after the Korean War, everybody was bailing out. So I came back from Liberty, and they said, well, you're getting discharged about a couple weeks early because Jersey was going out to sea on a shakedown cruise because it just came out of dry dock. And I kind of contemplated and said, well, do I want to stay in the Navy or do I don't? And I said, nah, I bailed out. But I almost did ship over.
Almost stayed in. So if you would, at that point, when they let you out early, if you said I want to stay in, they would have given you that extra stripe? And-
Yeah, they would have gave me the first class ship fitter. And then one chief come up to me and he says, you know, Andy, he says, with the way everybody's bailing out of the service, he says, most likely you could probably make chief in another 4 years.
Really?
Because everybody was bailing out of the Navy. And my rank was wide open. I think what they did sometime during the service, they separated pipe fitters from certain other parts of the, ranks, and they made that a separate rank, as far as I know.
Do you regret leaving the Navy, looking back on it?
Well, at first, when I first got out, I bailed around a couple of jobs, and I said, man, I should have stayed in. But then I did find a real good job, and I wound up working for this company for 33 years. And I actually was the head of a maintenance department where I had 16 guys under me, mechanics and electricians.
Do you credit your experience in the Navy to helping you gain that position you're at now?
Oh yeah, greatly.
How? Explain that.
Well, I did a lot of plumbing on the side, and when I first started with this company, I worked in maintenance as a pipe fitter, and did a lot of pipe fitting because we was made pressure sensitive materials. The company was named Avery Dennison, and well, another guy and we did all the pipe fitting in the plant, so I got a lot of experience there. And then through that, when we built another plant where I live, right across the street, another division they called it, I went over there as head of the maintenance. So all the experience in the Navy, or going to pipe fitter school, and what I learned helped me become a maintenance foreman.
Really paid off for you, it sounds like.
Oh yeah,
Very good.
greatly.
Have you retired now?
Pardon?
Did you retire now at this point?
Yeah, I retired from that company after 30-some years. And no, that's about it, But then I did a lot of plumbing on the side for friends of mine,
Sure.
Plumbing their houses and this and that.
Now, when you were aboard the ship, did you serve a tour in Korea, or is the ship back from Korea?
No, I just came back from Korea. But then we did go on a shakedown cruise, with the midshipmen. We went to France and Spain and New England and all the Virgin Islands.
What condition was the ship in after it came back from Korea? Was it top shape? Did it have to be repaired? Was it tired?
No, it looked like pretty good shape to me. They kept it in great shape. I mean, coming aboard, and as a second class pipe fitter, I really didn't have a heck of a lot to do other than that. But no, I thought the ship was really great shape. And a friend of mine that lived in Fairport Harbor, which is only a couple miles away, he was on the ship when it was in Korea, and he told me about the one guy that got killed with the shrapnel off the turret.
Right, turret number 2, I think
Yeah,
it was.
number 2.
Yep.
And that's how I found out about that guy.
And interestingly enough, I've interviewed people who knew the man and who played poker with him the night
Oh,
before.
yeah.
And one man, they played poker together, and this person who I interviewed said I owed him a few dollars for the poker game, and he marked in his book to pay him, and he never paid him
Oh, never
because the man
paid
was
him?
killed.
So,
His name just popped out of my mind right now
Oh,
because I've
yeah,
interviewed so
doesn't
many
he?
people. Since the ship just came back from Korea,
Mhm.
and there's a lot of people on the ship who had been in Korea, what was the sense or morale of those men after they came back from Korea? Were they
Well-
proud of their duty? Were they tired out from long time lines on
Well,
the
it seemed
time?
like that. What I had gathered from a lot of them, they were proud of their duty, and a lot of them were upbeat, because the war was getting towards the end, and I didn't think any of them were really downbeat, where we had a lot of problems that I knew of.
Yeah. How about now? Your chief said a lot of people were bailing out of the Navy very quickly.
Oh yeah.
After the war ends, what was the morale in the Navy like? Was it, I want to get out of the Navy, there's no war to fight, or were people saying, look, it's peacetime, so I won't have any danger? What was the feeling of the people you recall?
I think a lot of them, well, as I say bailing out, a lot of them were guys who were like electronic technicians, which got pretty well educated on that, and that was a coming thing, in the future, in the 50s. Well, they were offered some very good money to ship over. And like I think myself, I was offered like $1,200. You know, they wanted the guys to stay in. And but I think mostly them were the guys that were bailing out, that were in a higher, like electronic technicians and that.
Radar people,
Yeah,
maybe.
the radar
So,
people.
do you recall if the Navy was short of those people after a while for the next couple years?
I couldn't really say. You know, I wasn't in that area.
Sure.
Kind of.
While you were aboard ship, what was the morale of the crew? Did it work together well? Was there any fights?
Oh no, I never seen any fights aboard the ship. Uh, you know, that I could know of. Never seen anybody fight with each other. And the morale, as far as I was concerned, was pretty good because when we were in the port in Norfolk, Virginia, they used to bring. They actually had the championship boxing match aboard our ship on the fantail. They set up a ring, and I guess these guys that boxed in the Navy, but they had the championship right in Norfolk, Virginia, on board the ship here. That I remember.
Did the men who had been in the Navy during the Korean War on the ship, did they tell you any stories about Korea?
No, not a heck of a lot. Other than that, a friend of mine used to told me they had some great liberties in Japan, but that was about it.
Sure.
But they never elaborated other than like I told you, that one guy getting killed,
Yeah.
which everybody felt bad about that.
Right.
Because he's the only one that ever got killed on this ship.
Yeah, they're very, very lucky that the ship was
Yeah.
a lucky ship during World War II. A little bit for information, when the ship was built and launched in December 7th, 1942, 1 year after Pearl Harbor, they of course built it in the Philadelphia shipyard, and they used 100,000 pounds of grease on the skids to help it go into the water.
Oh yeah.
And they greased the skids so much that the ship not only went into the water, but it sailed across the Delaware River and got stuck in the mud of New Jersey.
I heard about the
It
Jersey sticking
kissed,
in the mud.
kissed the shore of New Jersey, and that was considered good luck.
Yeah.
The superstitions of the Navy people. And so they had to wait till high tide and get some tugs to pull it out of the mud in New Jersey. And then it was finally commissioned in May 23rd, 1942.
Uh-huh.
Took some months to get it ready to go. But it was very lucky in World War II that
Yeah.
nobody was actually killed aboard the ship, even
Yeah,
though it was
I was surprised to hear that.
Right.
You know, I didn't know that.
it was under a lot of fire
Yeah.
by kamikazes and so on like that
Yeah.
too. Sure.
And one thing I did learn, I didn't know about it either, that this was the most decorated ship of the battleship.
Most decorated battleship in American
Yeah.
naval history. Yes,
I
it
didn't
is.
know that either.
Because
I
it was
learned
in
that.
so many different battles over 3 different wars.
Yeah.
And it almost fought in Persian Gulf War One. It pulled out of the Persian Gulf, and then the Missouri went in and actually fired on the Iraqi targets and
Yeah.
so on like that.
And I know our tour guide told us a story about the Jersey and the Missouri.
Oh, the story between the two, and yes.
But other than that, in my experience, I really enjoyed being on this ship, you know, and I wish I could have went on that last shakedown cruise because I wanted to stay aboard. And they said, well, no, you can't stay aboard unless you ship over. You know, and I wanted to go on that cruise.
By the way, shipping over this time meant how many more years?
4.
4 more years.
Yeah,
You
I
would
would have 3 or 4 more years
Okay.
then.
Now, by the way, you said you went to France and other places?
Yeah, when we were on that shakedown cruise with the midshipmen, we went to France and we had maneuvers, and you know, and they actually fired all the 40s and the 5s and 16s at tugs, and they had a plane pulling a pylon, which they shot at with the 40s, and the 5s, you know, where they set the shells for shrapnel and being on cable. We were up on deck watching that, and which we were all in a line, a whole bunch of ships, but we were taking all the midshipmen on the guys that just graduated from Annapolis on a shakedown cruise.
What was the response of the French people when you landed your ashore?
Well, we went in Normandy. We were there, Liberty there one time, and really, I can't really remember about how they treated us. But as far as I'm concerned, they treat us pretty good.
Sure.
Because we hit a few of the bars, like any sailor. And other than that, was pretty good.
And what other ports did you land in?
Well, we went to, I think we went down to the Virgin Islands in St. Croix, you know, in Puerto Rico, and Cherbourg, France, and Barcelona, Spain.
And talk to me about Spain.
Well, Spain, we weren't there awful too long, but it was a good experience there because a bunch of us took one of these little trains to a beach, and we hung on the side of it, like you used to show on television, and that about it. Okay.
Um, Now, who was the captain during your cruise?
Oh, I couldn't tell you.
Do you recall the attitude towards the crew? Was the captain good, bad?
No, that I never remember anything being bad about him, other than whenever he went, the Marine went,
Right.
which was standard practice, I guess. And I think when I was on it, the Admiral actually came aboard for a while.
They
I
used
had
it as
some
a
articles at home.
they used it as a fleet ship then.
Yeah, fleet
at a
ship
certain point.
during
Yeah.
that time. I think pretty sure he was in there between the 53 and 55.
Now, you said before you had served on a what was the ship, please?
Repair ship.
Repair ship.
Yeah, USS Cadmus.
What was the difference between serving on a battleship, a ship of the line, versus a repair ship? Did you notice any difference in the way it operated, the crew's attitudes and discipline, morale, so on like that?
Well, I was like what they call a ship's company, because it was different. And on the Cadmus, they had guys that worked nothing but in a pipe shop or a ship fitter shop and all that. They repaired other ships. Well, I was on ship's company. And morale on that, as far as I know, during the Korean War was pretty good too. I never really know of anybody really getting fights and all that,
And where did where's the repair ship Cadmus stationed at, please?
Norfolk, Virginia.
So it stayed largely in the United States. Did it go out to sea or did it stay in port?
Well, we went to, the only place we ever went to that was down to Virgin Islands in Cuba, Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, which we took a trip down there in that. And plus I went on to Jersey there once.
So basically on the repair ship Cadmus, you were in port most of the time.
Yeah, never hardly went anywhere.
What did most sailors prefer? Port duty like the Cadmus or battleship duty like the New Jersey?
No, I really enjoyed Jersey more than that Cadmus. I kind of wish I got on it when I went to Korea, right out of the boot camp. But
a little bit earlier.
yeah, I got shipped on the Cadmus.
Sure. Now I promised to keep you for only 30 minutes. We're getting close to that point.
Okay.
I ask a final question of people. Oh, one other question I sometimes ask. In 1954, I've interviewed the first black officer aboard the ship. His name was Lieutenant Ivy. What was the at this point? Also, the Navy was starting to integrate. In 1948, Harry Truman ordered the military to integrate.
Yeah.
What about race relations on the ship, working with African Americans at the time? What do you recall from that?
No, we never had any problems with some of the colored on the ship that I know of, and but mostly our department was all white.
Was it? Yeah.
And I think most of them were cooks.
Yeah.
And that.
Stewards. Because what I've seen is that in '48, all the black people were serving the officers in the wardroom as stewards.
And that's about
And then gradually they were brought in by the '60s. They're in radar, all types of occupations aboard the ship. But it was a gradual, slow change taking place.
And primarily, that I remember on the Cadmus or the Jersey was they were all cooks.
All cooks at that
And
point still.
that was their duties.
Sure.
I don't remember any of them being in like with our department, engineering or any of that.
Okay, sure. Final general question I have is, how did your experience aboard the battleship New Jersey and in the Navy in general, how did it impact your life?
Well, like I told you earlier, it was a good learning experience. I was only like 20 years old when I joined, and I got out when I was 23 or 20, somewhere 24. And as far as I'm concerned, it was a great experience, and I wish I could have shipped over and stayed a little longer, in the Navy, because I enjoyed it. And it was a great experience, like where I finally got employment and that, and what I wound up doing as a civilian.
Now, many young people today never go in the military.
No.
We have really a professional military versus a volunteer military where everybody went in or was drafted into the Army. What would you say to young people today coming out of high school or college about the military?
Well, my opinion, if they can't find a job and the way things are, they should join the service and get some kind of education and some experience in their life, which is the military gives you a hell of a great experience, of life and what you expect.
Now, when you were aboard, when you were working in the corporation, did you notice the difference between men and women who had been in the military and those who had not been in? Was there any difference in how they performed on the job?
I personally think I had some under me that were in the service in the Army, and one of them was in the Korean War, And he was a more dedicated employee than some of the others that never served. And that's what I feel, that they were more dedicated worker. And I had, like I said, 15, 16 people under me at one time.
Interesting. Interesting.
And one of the electricians I had, he was a electrician in the Navy too, but I'm not sure where he served or what. And that's where he got his experience from.
Now, based on our short conversation today, I always ask at the end, is there anything I should have talked about, asked you about, that I haven't, that you think is important to leave? Because this tape will remain on the Battleship New Jersey forever, and it will also, a copy will be sent to the Library of Congress in the near future.
Mm-hmm.
Anything you want to leave for the historical record, for somebody maybe to hear 100, 200 years from now?
Well, I don't really have much more to say other than I hope they keep this thing as a memorial for what happened in the last 3-4 wars.
And this is your first time aboard, isn't it? Is
Yeah,
that correct? And
my
how did it
first.
feel to come on the ship for the first time since
Well,
1955?
Like
That's
I was
many.
living my life all over again. And because I last 3-4 years, I kept telling my wife, I want to take a trip to Jersey and see my old ship. And I wanted to see this more than I would even think of seeing a Cadmus. Because this was a great experience on this thing, on this ship.
Good. And you're here with your son today, is that correct?
Right.
What's your son's reaction to the ship that his dad served on?
You know, he thought it was great. He said he couldn't believe how big it is. And you know, what happened aboard this ship.
By the way, something I forgot to ask, where was your bunk area? Where's your division? Which division were you in, and where did it sleep on the ship?
Well, I was in an engineering department. I guess when you come aboard, the first bunk, when the ladder going down below on the right, or on the starboard. That's where our sleeping quarters, and that's where the Pipefitter first ship repair shop was.
I just interviewed somebody several weeks ago who was aboard the ship in the late 1980s who slept down the exact same place.
Yeah, we had
And
the
he was
canvas bunks.
he was part of the deck division at that point. They just moved around where people
Yeah.
slept. But he stayed down there, and he was telling me some interesting stories of what they did with new guys coming aboard the ship
Oh,
and something
yeah.
like that, and how they would help break them in. And
The tour guide told us about our mattresses, and I said, yeah, we call them something else. Remember, you know what they call them.
yes.
So I didn't want to tell them there.
Now, when you were aboard, they didn't have the coffin bunks. You were sleeping on the
Canvas,
canvas with the
thin mattress.
thin 3-inch mattress, and
And-
it would just let down with a little wire spring
Yeah,
below it
and
like
you
that.
roll over, you bump the guy above you.
That's right. It was 18 inches like that.
Yeah.
I've been aboard Navy ships.
If you were big. So
That's
if
right.
you were small, you try to get the top bunk.
That's right, to get all the way to the top.
Yeah, when you got seniority, you went up to the top bunk.
Did you start out on the bottom bunk?
Pardon?
Did you start on a bottom bunk?
Oh
when you
yeah, I
first-
was on the bottom bunk, and one time I was I had the midnight watch, like I was telling you, and I was sleeping, and I had my hand sticking out like this, and some character sprayed shaving cream all over my hand. Yeah, and lucky I woke up and it was there.
Sure. We had an experience aboard the USS Sandoval,
fun.
a troop ship I was on, and somebody on bunk number 6 up in the marine compartment got sick and threw up, and it
Oh,
hit
did
5,
he?
4, 3, 2, 1 because all the bunks went out like this. We almost threw him overboard after that.
Oh yeah,
Something else.
yeah, we had fun on the ship.
Good,
You know, guys harassed each other a little bit, but
Sure.
never nothing fights that I know of.
Well, today I've been speaking with Mr. Andrew J. Lombardy of Madison, Ohio, who served aboard the battleship New Jersey from 1953 to 1955. Today is August 25th, the year 2011, and Mr. Lombardy, I want to thank you for the interview. I also want to thank you for your service, too, to the country. Everybody, luckily at that point, was willing to serve their time in some way or other and to
Yeah.
help maintain our power, especially during the Cold War period. So, sir, thank you very much.
No, you're welcome.